Found something else interesting to work on here. It's a Lucas Distributor. It's a 38D8. It's out of a Rover V8. It's got the drive gear on the bottom here. The cap is still on the top, ready to protect it from crap. And what I'll do is I'll strip this. I need to strip this down and give it a good old clean through. So first of all, we'll start by taking the cap off. This is just there to protect it. Inside, we can see old school technology. This component here is the points. This component is the condenser. That is an adjustment for the ignition timing, and this is a vacuum advance. We'll come into the vacuum advance in a second. There is an 8-sided cam in the middle of the distributor. It spins. Each time the points, little insulated foot here, reaches the peak of one of those, it springs open the points here, and as it closes, it sends a signal back to the coil to fire high tension. So what we've got inside of the distributor is a low tension 12 volt DC circuit and a high tension circuit which goes through from the coil to the top of the rotor, to the outside of the rotor, via the contacts, out to each of the spark plugs. Absolutely critical that these things work. Otherwise you get the spark at the wrong time, or you don't get a spark at all. With the points, to take the points out, first of all you need to take the low tension circuit off. So what I'm doing here is just undoing the nut on the top of the post. Now, if you don't understand these systems, it's best if you can take them apart and lay out the bits. So there's the nut. Then I have an insulating ring, because I want, that's the circuit there that's the condenser. I want to make sure that the bits go back in the right order. So the insulating ring goes through that connection there. That connection goes through to this. This connects to the coil, to the negative side of the coil. Now, if I then undo, probably not explaining myself very well, but that's just me, isn't it? I haven't even started drinking yet. The points are held in place by this screw here. Don't worry about the fact the base plate turned, it's designed to do that. I'll show you why in a second. So there's a screw that retains the points, and then the points assembly comes out. So what we've effectively got with the points assembly, that thing there is to lubricate as it goes round. As the points go round, this is an exaggerated movement, but you can see the points are here. As I push the cam, you can see the points opening and closing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the nut back on the top. Sorry, I'm going to put the insulator, which has come off the low tension wire, back on the top of the points, and I'm going to put the nut back on top of that. So you can see by looking at that, that if I put voltage onto this post here, yeah, then it's going to go straight to earth. If I put voltage onto this, but with this in place, then the voltage will go through here and not straight to earth. And it can only go to earth through the points themselves. And the idea is that as it opens and closes, it sends that voltage to earth. This is the earth, yeah? And it's that action which tells the coil to send a high voltage charge, high voltage, high current charge, through the high tension side of it. Okay, so that's points. Dead easy. On the bottom of the points, you've got this post. This post connects up to the vacuum advance. Remember the vacuum advance? I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. You guys are going to pay attention. Right, this chap here, condenser, it controls the voltage. So without a condenser, you're going to find that the points will burn out very, 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 very quickly. Majority of issues that you kind of get with points ignition systems, it's going to be down to the condenser. There's all sorts of different quality parts available on the market. Some are good, some are crap. So all I can suggest is buy the best that you can get your hands on. The condenser is literally just held to the base plate by this screw. That is a condenser. This terminal here goes onto the same insulated place, i.e. to this spring rather than to the earth. If you put it to the earth, it won't work. It's got to be insulated into the same place that this positive circuit. So these two are effectively, they're in the same circuit. Okay, let's talk about vacuum advance briefly. So vacuum advance, that connector there takes a vacuum from the inlet manifold by the carburetors. What it does is when it sucks on that, it will pull the points inwards, and it will rotate the base plate. Where's the base? So the points are there. Let me just put the points back on briefly. That pin goes through a hole on the base plate and hooks into a hole on the vacuum advance. Now the idea is, as the vacuum advance pulls, it will pull the points and the base plate with it. So it pulls it that way. I can feel it springing. You can feel it. You can see it springing. So what it does, as the engine runs faster and there's a greater vacuum in the inlet manifold, it advances the ignition, and that's essential really to maintain good running of the engine, because it won't need the same ignition curve at idle as it does at, let's say, the red line. Not the red lion, the red line. Right, I think what we'll do next is we're going to take the base plate off. We're going to take the vacuum advance off first of all. So there's 2 screws to hold the vacuum advance on. One here, put the points over there. You notice I'm putting the screws back in this thing as I take them off. Partly because I don't lose them, and also because when it does eventually go into the ultrasonic cleaner, it will clean the screws at the same time. Good, huh? Right, so out comes the vacuum advance. It's got a gasket on it as well, so you can see that's the vacuum advance. This pulls and that moves. It's a bit glummy though. To test it, all you do is you suck, put your mouth over that and suck on it. If you can breathe through it, there's a diaphragm inside here, it's knackered. If you can't breathe through it, this moves, and as I suck on it, this moves backwards and forwards about 3 or 4 millimeters. So, as crappy as that looks, it actually works. Right, that's the vacuum advance. We pop these 2 screws back into the carburetor body. Base plate next, I think. So if I were to, there's 3 screws. There's 1 screw here, 1 screw here, 1 screw here, and 1 screw here. Not that one, because that's the one that held the condenser in. This screw here, quite importantly, holds the earth wire which connects the top half of the base plate with the bottom half of the base plate. Now let me undo these 3. I'm actually going to use a Phillips screwdriver rather than a flathead. Pleasingly, these are not tight. There we go. Shifted. I guess the problem is that this thing's been in here so bloody long that it actually stuck very, very gently to the side of the distributor. Right, that's the base plate. So the idea behind this thing is that there's 2 halves of it, the top half and the bottom half. So the bottom half is fixed into the distributor, the top half rotates with a vacuum advance and allows the points to advance or retard. Let's take off this low tension circuit bit off the outside before we go too much further, because this cable is just dangling around here. So I'm just trying to see. Yep, it's just a rubber bung and it just needs feeding through the side of the distributor body. I'm very gentle here not to stab myself or puncture the bung, because obviously if you have a leak to earth in any way on the low tension side of the distributor, then the coil won't get a signal from the points that there needs to be a trigger, and then you find that you don't get a spark, and then you're thinking, why is this bloody thing not working? And it's not working because you've got a low tension circuit that's potentially going straight to earth. Anyway, that's the wire that goes from the coil to the points. Right, inside here now we've got bob weights. Bob weights inside the distributor. The faster they spin, or the faster the distributor spins, the faster those bob weights will flick out, and I am going to see if I can get them. The trouble is I need to hold the base of the distributor. Now if I push that, you can see the bob weights flick out. It's a centrifugal thing. the springs are deliberately long and short. It's the way they are. It's quite important these bob weights work properly. They're like a regulator, a governor. Okay, I'm not going to worry about the bob weights. Inside here, it doesn't look too bad actually. It's there's some crap in the bottom. It's not unusual to see oil in the bottom of a distributor because people are supposed to oil the top pin. Supposed to oil the top pin because it's oiled, then the bit that exists between the top shaft and the bottom shaft. I can rotate the top shaft independently of the bottom shaft, and by rotating the top shaft you can see the bob weights. Let me come over here under the light. If I rotate, holding the bottom bit tight, I can advance and retard the top half. So the idea is, as the engine spins the distributor, the faster it goes, the further out the bob weights go, the more advanced the ignition. Yeah? With me? There you go. Okay, on the bottom end of the distributor body, we've got the drive. We've got this piece here. Now this piece on a Rover V8, there's an oil pump that goes straight into that. So the idea is, this comes off a toothed wheel on the front of the timing chain at the camshaft end, and that goes straight onto the oil pump. So if you take the distributor out and crank the engine over, you won't get oil pressure. Now it looks like all I need to do here is just knock that roll pin out there in order to get the drive off the bottom of the distributor body. So I'm going to give that a go. It's probably one of my old computer tools. Incorrect use of tools here, chaps. Sorry about this. I haven't got my drifts here. Right, so the pin has nearly come all the way through. I didn't want to bang it out over the vise because you know what will happen next is that it will roll across the floor. And if you've ever seen the floor in this workshop, you will know that it will never be seen again. There we go, roll pins out. One roll pin. I'm just levering off the drive from the bottom of the distributor. It is coming off, slowly but surely. I've just been gentle how I wedge this thing off. It's resisting my gentleness. Right, okay, so let's go for brutality. This rubber hammer, by the way, is the most useful thing I've ever had in my workshop. Right, so now we have taken off the drive. There's the drive, needs a good clean. And there's a locking tab here, which goes in the bottom of the distributor. No, it's coming out. I'm just knocking the distributor shaft through. There we are. That's there is a channel that takes oil up into the base of the distributor. Cool, huh? And inside there is really nothing now. That's just the distributor body. So I'm going to lob that in the ultrasonic cleaner. Here, on the other hand, what we've got is Lucas bob weights. So the idea behind this is there is a top half to the shaft and a bottom half to the shaft. I'm actually not going to bother dismantling it because those bob weights are looking really clean and the springs are looking perfect. So what I'm going to do is just lob that in and give it a proper clean. So what we've effectively done here, we've stripped the distributor body right down to its bare components. In the bottom there's a bush or a bearing in the bottom. Other than that, that distributor body is now empty. We've got the main distributor shaft. The drive goes onto the bottom. There's the drive. The drive goes onto the bottom of the shaft. The spiral there is to wind oil into the bottom bearing. Top half of the shaft, which is separate from the bottom half of the shaft, but I'm not going to bother taking it apart, has the bob weights, which are working beautifully. You can see them twisting open and closed there. We've got the vacuum advance, which looks shit, but works. We've got the high tension circuit. We've got the low tension circuit, which again looks intact. I'm going to keep that. We've got the base plate, which looks nice and shiny. A set of points, which actually are a little bit burnt and pitted. When you get burnt and pitted points, most likely causes one of these puppies. It will also burn out the contacts on the inside of the distributor cap as well. You can see that there's been plenty of arcing action in there. So I will probably replace the condenser and the points with as good a quality as I can possibly get my hands on. Right, okay, let's get the old ultrasonic tank fired up and see if we can get this distributor cleaned up.